Hi guys, it's me, Dahlia Deering, and today we have a great surprise for you. I am actually here with one of my favorite up-and-coming children's book authors. Y'all know I struggle with it. Michelle, and she is getting ready to tell us all of the good juice behind her becoming a children's book author, versus frustration, in addition to any and all other behind the scenes information for anybody else who's also an up and coming children's book author, teetering on whether or not they're going to push that button. Before I bring her on, I just want to take the time to express how grateful I am to have her in my life as a friend. Also, as in my network, she is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, believe it or not. And she has been a lot of the reason behind me wanting to push, promote, and develop my book because of just some of the wisdom and encouragement that she has been able to share with me over many, many long phone conversations, midnight conversations, because she is in Japan. So our time is off. But nevertheless, as a full-time mom, spouse, that never deterred her from spending the amount of time needed to help flourish and push me in my direction to develop as an author. So I really wanted to give her those flowers before I brought her on. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So as we get started, everybody else is not going to know you as well as I do. Tell them a little bit about yourself and how it feels to officially be a published children's book author.
Well, it feels great. First of all, I wanted to write for the longest, right? And that's everybody's story. And then pulling the trigger for me was an adventure all by itself. But ultimately, I'm glad I did it, and it feels great to be a published author. A little bit about myself. I am a spouse, military spouse for 10 years now. I'm a mother, got two little people, 10 and 4 years old. And currently I do reside in Japan. We travel quite a bit. So I've got a wealth of inspiration at any given moment. And I am trying my best at this point to take all that inspiration to weave really influential stories that are relevant and useful.
Awesome. So the topic at hand, of course, tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write it specifically.
Sure. My book is, I got it right here, is A Little Bit More. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Great. A Little Bit More. And this actually is making an inspiration in the making for me for at least 6-7 years. I never thought I would be able to hold this in my hand. So many authors have that same story. Like, I've got stories for days, right? And I don't know what to do with it. I like telling stories, or people like my stories. People around me like my stories, but that's it. I don't really know what to do past that point. So for me, holding this book in my hand signified a major life milestone, because not only was it a response to a question that my daughter asked, where are the girls that look like me? With her favorite TV shows, the girls in her classroom. And it wasn't anything that really bothered her. I think she just had a desire to feel connected, like so many of us do, and our children. So holding this book in my hand is a specific achievement for me, because if it wouldn't have been for my daughter, I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have completed it, right?
Mm-hmm. And so, what's it about? What is that specific book about? Give us a little bit without too much.
Of course, right. I don't want to give away too much. But so this story is about an energetic girl named Maya. Maya is enthusiastic. She has a really profound passion for dance. However, what she also has is a lot of energy. And so this energy doesn't really lend itself to be extremely useful in ballet class where she has to listen to strict instructions. She's got to fit in. She's got to look the part. So over the course of this story, she starts to realize what is seen as good. And she realizes also that this is a challenge for her. It's hard for her to be just like everybody else. It's hard for her to do just like everybody else at any given moment. So no matter how hard she tries, she realizes that this is a challenge for her because she wants to move, she feels the beat, she's expressive, and there's a time and a place, right? So ultimately, after she realizes that she's not necessarily getting all of the good accolades that her peers are getting, she starts to pick herself apart, like, I am different. Like, what's wrong with me? How come this is so hard for me? And she starts to dissect herself down to her looks, and she realizes, I don't look like them, I don't move like them. Ultimately, she starts to kind of become critical of herself. So the story, over the course of the storyline, she starts to dig deep. She uses her mother as a resource. She uses a different inspiration from different places to garner up empowerment and find the strength in herself to ultimately stand out, be that breakout star that she was meant to be, and find a place for her uniqueness.
Awesome. Awesome. And we are, well, I have read the book, so I know, but I would encourage anybody who has a little one, male or female, honestly, after reading that book, with that extra energy that doesn't know where to put it, may not be the best listener in school, may not sit still when sitting still is what's needed. I encourage you to get this book, read it for your child, and just see how they relate and that sort of thing. Great job on that book. Next thing I want to ask you is, once you put it out there and you had some readers, myself excluded because I'm just a fan in general, what was their initial feedback, and were you able to grow from it?
The initial feedback actually was extremely surprising. I think I've said before, I didn't really expect a whole lot because, I had an ability to tell stories for the longest, but I didn't think that they were extremely valuable. I wrote this story because I saw inspiration from people in my sphere, and I wanted to use this story to primarily support them. I wanted them to see themselves in the pages and to identify the storyline that they could relate to. I didn't expect for as many people to just outpour support and admiration as a result of this story, because it's just, one children's, I didn't think it was a great big deal, but I was surprised and overwhelmed with gratitude for how receptive people were with the story a little bit more. I ultimately learned a little bit about myself and my gift of storytelling through the outpour of support. And it did encourage me. It encouraged me to actually make this a brand. It encouraged me to make this something that continues, that doesn't just necessarily support my sphere, but also outside my sphere. There's information. There are stories that are relatable and useful overall. So ultimately, it was a pleasant surprise, but it was a motor to drive my inspiration to go further.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your writing process and what that's like. Anything specific that you do?
So I wanted to say that my writing process was extremely unique before, but after talking to a few other authors, I'm like, my process probably isn't that expansive. So I ultimately try to write when it's quiet. That's, and that's hard to do in my house because my house is noisy at any given point in time. And it's not just the babies, it's the husband too. He's so I like to write when everyone's gone. They're gone to school, they're gone to work. The house is empty. It's just me and my energy and my inspiration. I tend to cherry pluck inspiration throughout my day. When I'm out in the grocery store, if I talk to my mom and she's telling me about my niece and my nephew and what's going on with them, good friends that share stories with me, I cherry pluck information and I just kind of store it. I put it on my little brain shelf. And then when I do have my alone time, then I kind of sort through the files like, I want a character who is shy, but extremely gifted, and I want to cherry pick different pieces that I've stored to kind of plug into this character and bring them into fullness. Ultimately, when I do have that process, I have to quiet my mind to get to all of that information, and I like to meditate. Meditation for me is very calming. It's just basically silencing all of my thoughts, sitting still, asking myself, which story is relevant? Which story do I share right now? And then waiting until it comes. And that way, I also realize that I avoid writer's block. I don't experience writer's block when I allow myself to connect with the inner thought that's already there. It just flows. Like I open the levees and the energy just comes out and I let it. So
Awesome.
yeah, ultimately that's what works for me. And then also writing it down. For me, it is very important to write it. I get a pen, I write it down. I know some people can sit in front of their computers and they can just type it up. I can't do that. I have to write it. I edit it on the paper and then I type it up. It's my process. It works for me. I have to see it on the page. I have to see my writing and then I transpose. And that has always been my flow. And it just works for me that way.
Okay. Question then. Who, with all this energy and effort you're putting into this, who is your target audience? Who are you channeling? Who are you speaking to?
I want to speak to the children who feel marginalized, and marginalized in a sense where it's like, I realize that I'm a little bit different. Certain things don't flow for me like everyone else. For the most part, these kids have different learning challenges. They have different handicaps. They have different disabilities, but they still want to feel a part. I don't give Maya in this story a label ADHD. However, lots of kids with ADHD can identify with her character. I don't want to give her a label or any of my characters specifically because so many of our children in our communities, inner city communities, extremely rural communities, our children are not diagnosed. And so I don't want them to pick up the story and then relate to the pictures, relate to the story somewhat, and then see a label and say, oh, that's not me. So I want them to ultimately look at the story for what it is. If it relates, fill it out, and then also be empowered by solutions based on what the character encounters throughout the story.
Awesome. With that being in mind, name three things or three qualities or characteristics rather that you feel a good writer should have.
I feel a good writer should be confident first. Confident because that confidence is what's going to allow you to connect with your gift, your art. If you're not sure about your art, you will encounter lots of writer's block. Your story will struggle, and ultimately a lot of the relevant message might be lost in translation. Lost in translation because you're wanting to make sure that you dot all the I's, you cross all the T's, you're wanting to fit a certain streamline. And sometimes the answer to the questions that our stories provide is to think outside the box. It requires us to think outside the box. So to get out of streamline, go against the flow. So first thing is confidence. Second thing is, I would say that you would need to be disciplined on some level. For me, discipline comes about when I tell myself, hey, you've had this story kind of floating around for a while. You need to really get it out on papers. Go ahead and push that out. A lot of times, thank you. A lot of times, we'll get caught up in the day-to-day. I got to work. I'm tired. I need self-care. I need to overcome whatever challenges are concurrently happening. And that creativity is stifled. So that discipline is what motivates you to get past that, that day-to-day monotony, and to ultimately get the stuff out, get it out. So first being confident, second being disciplined, and the last being, I want to say openness. Just being open to sharing whatever comes to you.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times, for me at least, while I was writing this story, I would talk to my good friends and I'm like, this is what I want to say, but I don't want to say it in a way that is offensive or in a way that might not be perceived well. And, you know, it ultimately made me feel a little boxed in. But my community, my circle, including you, encouraged me to put all that aside. Don't think about the way being politically correct, right? Think about what the story is and the message that you want to get out. Get the message out first, and then you can try to craft so that it is applicable and it fits. First thing though, being open to just let that channel of energetic creativity out. So first thing being confidence, second being discipline, and then that last thing being open to creativity. Definitely.
Awesome. Any major plans or upcoming projects that you want to speak on and share with us? We're
I
getting exclusive here,
do.
guys.
I do, and I'm so excited about it. Honestly, I'm really glad that you asked that question because it is just like bubbling for me to get this information out because it's so big. So after writing this story, not before it was published, but not after it was published, before it was published, actually, we developed a brand for our stories. Because we knew that the story was relevant to address a lot of concerns for our demographic. We wanted to make a brand where we could answer a lot of questions over the span of different storylines. So our brand is Primary Prestige, right?
You keep saying we in our. Who are we discussing?
Well, actually, my husband has been working with me really closely. So he's like he's part of my team, right? He's not gonna let me forget that he's part of the team. So when I say we, I'm talking about me and him.
I knew that, but I just wanted to give him a shout out. So
yeah, definitely. Shout out Wolf, Big Smoke. I have to say it that way because I know you'll get hyped. Anyway, so yeah, that's my teammate. He's my champion.
awesome.
He propels me. So we put this brand together, Primary Prestige, stories for the fan. So, and I'm sorry if you guys can hear that really loud noise outside. It's noisy over here, outside and inside usually. So we wanted to make stories for children who were fearless, ambitious, nonpareil. Nonpareil is a name that you don't hear every day, but I wanted to use that specific word because I wanted to encourage kids to go and investigate it. I wanted to encourage adults to go and investigate it. It means
say it again. Say the word one more time slower.
nonpareil.
Nonpareil.
Yeah. Okay. And so
no, I wanted to because I want to look up the right thing. I don't want Siri to tell me I can't spell, like she's rude. So
Nonpareil, nonpareil.
Okay.
So and this word literally means unique, like a snowflake. There is nobody like you, and that is your superpower. So our brand, we wanted to encompass that energy that you might be different, and that's actually a superpower. That's something you should embrace. That's something that you should promote. That's something that needs to stand out. That's your essence. Nobody else can be just like you, and you don't want to be just like anybody else, right?
And again, you said it. Your brand again is Primary Prestige. I just want to make sure they know that. And then, what is your logo symbol as you're talking about?
Oh my goodness, it is a peacock.
Yes.
And I have been, I want to say for the longest, this peacock has been following me around. Like whenever I need an inspiration for like to stand out, be bold, just go for it, showstopper vibes. It's like this doggone peacock follows me around. Awesome. And so I decided to go ahead and just let that be our image. Awesome. And so many of the kids that I've already seen our logo for our brand have I automatically just identified with it.
Connected. Oh, that's
Yes,
awesome. That is
absolutely.
awesome.
And so the storylines for Primary Prestige ultimately encompass a wide range of stories for kids that are different. Different in the sense of disabilities. We've actually got a story coming up that we're working on now with a little boy who is dealing with indicators of dyslexia. And
Awesome.
again, I don't give a label, so I don't actually say that he has dyslexia, but he's in a classroom setting. He's gifted. He's used to standing out. He's used to being dynamic, and he's used to getting attention for that. He's fast. He runs really fast. He wins all the races, so all the kids know who he is. But then when he goes to first grade and he has to learn to read, he's realizing that he's got some challenges. And his peers are picking this up a lot easier than he is. And this is the first time he's really felt challenged in this way. So it affects him. And ultimately, he uses the resources in his environment to empower himself so that he can overcome his personal challenges as well. So that's just one example of one of the relatable stories that we include in our brand Primary Prestige. And we want to ultimately cultivate more stories that are just like that.
Awesome. Awesome. I am definitely, well, I'm always been a fan, but I'm very excited to see what this book becomes and to see what you do with this, because I think it is an amazing, amazing thing you did to tie people who are considered quote unquote disabled with a symbol as proud and as big as the peacock. I think that speaks volumes. I love the fact the youth are seeing it and connecting with it. And I'm hoping in future interviews, if you allow us to interview you again, we can see what that looks like and what comes of this. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Next question is, as far as being an author, tell me what you consider to be fun versus frustrating about the process. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That's a good one. So I think the fun part is, for me, is just being creative, right? Like letting all of that creative energy just out. Having fun, finding ways to transpose that into stories that are unique and also dynamic, but ultimately an indication of my creative essence. I think what is not fun for me is marketing. Like it. I'm not a salesperson. I just want to bring you the story, buy the story if you want the book. But ultimately, that is not fun for me. So if anything, I'd have to streamline it to that. The creativity part is fun. The marketing is not fun.
Yes, because nobody wants to feel like they are taking their baby and giving it to the world. Like, here, buy it. You know, you want to get to the highest bidder. It seems wrong. Trust me, I think
this is a good story that's useful. I don't want to have to put a number on it.
Yes, and I just want to say, as a disclaimer, when we put this out here, if a bunch of people with marketing schemes come clouding our inboxes, trying to get us to pay thousands of dollars, we ain't got it. We're not doing it. All right. It's frustrating, but we're figuring it out. Back up. Golly. Because you know how they are. As soon as we put it, wait, well, I get it for $5 for $10,000. Well, I'm sure you could. I'm absolutely sure you could. Crazy. Anyway.
Right, I get it. Yeah, definitely. I think that's for the longest. That was all the friends I had on Instagram. Hey, people, let me promote your book. Let me pay me $25. No, thank you.
Yeah. I put one image up of the logo of the company. I love your book. What? That's not even the book. Look, back up, bot. Like, that's the thing. So I just want to say that for me and all other authors, when we express this honesty, when we are on here being our genuine selves, we don't want y'all taking this and trying to sell us anything at all. But for anybody else with genuine help, with genuine desire to give us any type of feedback or pour into us, we definitely are open. It's just them bots and then people who don't care about us and just trying to make a dollar. Please keep it moving. Now, so we're getting ready to get into our fun portions of these questions. Why do you write? And what is your overall message to readers when it's all said and done? what do you want your readers to say and believe about you as an author overall?
Once again, a good question. What I want them to take away from my stories and say about me as an author overall. Mm-hmm. I ultimately want them to take empowerment away from my stories. That's the champion product. Them feeling empowered, them finding a friend in our stories, them seeing themselves or just feeling connected. And ultimately walking away feeling empowered, like having that aha moment, like, you know what, I remember when I was in class and I was struggling, and my friends made fun of me because I didn't understand, and I remember how that felt. But ultimately, I didn't think about using this as a means to solve my problem. And that empowerment being the solution going forward. So that's what I want them to take away from my stories. Solutions, empowerment. When it comes to me as an author, I want to have a legacy for sure. I want to have a legacy. I want to have a legacy that extends beyond just the stories, but that ultimately says, you know, this person here really made a mark on our community in a really positive way. And because of that, I was given a space ultimately to expand. I do want to expand. I want to reach a broader audience. I want a raised platform so that these solutions, this empowerment, this confidence can be a larger scale for marginalized kids in our community. There's a show that my daughter likes to watch, Sophia the First, right? And you probably heard of Sophia the First, right? Because it's everywhere.
I love Sophia the First. I do.
Me
I
too.
do love Sophia the
It's
First.
good. I like it. So I was sitting watching TV with her one day, and she is so into this Sophia the First show. And there's a boy on there with autism, right? And so they take this message, this really big message that is autism, where this boy is gifted, but he's got differences, right? And so the rest of the group didn't really know how to relate to him, even though they really liked his paintings and his artwork. They really enjoyed his gift. And so ultimately he has a sibling to, which is his resource, to basically bridge that gap for him and explain certain things about his differences that are just differences, but are not things that should be isolated, are not problems. And so eventually this story, this cartoon, merges friendship and support and value for this child who has these differences, and ultimately finds a bridge so that they're connected. So this huge story is compacted down into this one probably 20-minute episode, and I'm sitting there like, wow, that's big. Like, to the point where my daughter is like, there's nothing wrong with him. Why were they scared of him? Because he was yelling. And I'm like, right, baby, right. So I want to have representation for us in that aspect, because that is very necessary. That's the legacy that I hope to leave behind. I know it's a little windy on that, but I wanted to get that all in there.
No, I mean, we're here to interview you. We want to hear what you have to say. And I think that is perfect. That you were able to get that inspiration from that, or confirmation rather, because this has been your dream forever. I know you, so I know that. And that's really, really awesome. Lastly, on my last question, just want to ask you, what advice would you give to anybody else who is thinking or deciding that they want to pull the trigger on becoming a children's book author or an author, period? Do you have any advice or anything that you would like to pass on to them?
I do. I recently had a conversation about this with another friend who, she wants to write a different type of book, but ultimately her issue was the same as a lot of people's. I got this big story, but I don't know what to do with it. And so for me, get the story out. That's the first thing. Always the first thing. Get the story out. A lot of times it's sitting up here. It's life experiences, it's different inspirations, it's really eclectic. Get the story out. Just get it out. Even if you have to just keep it in a Microsoft Word document on your computer and carry it on a hard drive where you have it with you at any given moment. And, maybe somebody crosses your path and they tell you, hey, you can take the story and you can do X, Y, Z. Just get it out, right? Get the story out. After that, there's not a whole lot of legwork that you need to do anymore. Everything is at your fingertips. We've got Google, we've got what are the other search engines that you can use? You can just type it in and ask, how do I publish a book? But get the story out first, right? That's the first part. That's the biggest part. Get the story out. And from there, the legwork is as simple as a search query. And that was ultimately what I decided to do. Ask the questions, and I didn't know who to ask the questions to immediately in my environment a lot of times. And so I would get on Google, I would get on YouTube, and a lot of that stuff is 1, 2, 3. But first, get the story out. That's the biggest thing. Get it out of your head, period.
Awesome. That is, as another children's book author, I definitely agree. I think that's just the way to do it. Well, in all honesty, that is all of my questions. I just really want to say thank you. Thank you for doing what you do, for being an awesome friend, for being a part of my network. I'm really excited for everyone watching this to order her book. Show it to us again one more time.
Absolutely.
So that we can see.
Can y'all see it?
Yes, I want you guys to order this book a little bit more. For anybody that if you don't have a child of your own, or as we call here, fawn of your own, order it for a fawn that you know. I know I've already got it on the way from my niece for Christmas. I want to encourage everybody to support this, because these types of messages are things that we try to convey on our own, but it's always good when somebody else writes. It's always good when it can be reinforced through learning. So please, please, please support. And lastly, one thing I want to highlight that she said, and she didn't really spend a lot of time on it today, but one of the biggest things that she's implanted in my life is, when children read your books, they should be able to read your books and find a friend. And I think that is one of the most profound advices she's ever given me. People, children or anyone, should be able to look at your book and say, hey, I have a friend here. There's someone else who understands me. This is a safe space, kind of thing. And so I really, really appreciate her breaking that down, creating that. And just wanted to ask you guys again to support her in all her endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, Dee Michelle. Good night, everyone.